Job chapter number 8. One chapter tonight. We're again going through the book of Job, and this part of it, we're at least taking it conversation by conversation. This is Bildad's turn to have a turn at the conversation, and all eyes are upon Bildad as he speaks and answers Job as Job answered Eliphaz. But Job chapter number 8, and Josh, if you'd be ready, if you get some comments here in just a few moments, if you have comments or feedback from this chapter, we'll take those before I give you my notes here. Chapter 8 verse 1 says, Then answered Bildad the Shuhite and said, How long wilt thou speak these things, and how long shall the words of thy mouth be like a strong wind? Doth God pervert judgment, or doth the Almighty pervert justice? If thy children have sinned against him, and he have cast them away for their transgression, if thou wouldest seek unto God betimes, and make thy supplication to the Almighty, if thou wert pure and upright, surely now he would awake for thee, and make the habitation of thy righteousness prosperous. Though thy beginning was small, yet thy latter end should greatly increase. For inquire, I pray thee, of the former age, and prepare thyself to the search of their fathers. For we are but of yesterday, and know nothing, because our days upon earth are a shadow. Shall not they teach thee, and tell thee, and utter words out of their heart? Can the rush grow up without mire, or the flag grow without water? Whilst it is yet in the greenness, and not cut down, it withereth before any other herb. So are the paths of all that forget God, and the hypocrite's hope shall perish. Whose hope shall be cut off, and whose trust shall be a spider's web. He shall lean upon his house, but it shall not stand. He shall hold it fast, but it shall not endure. He is green before the sun, and his branch shooteth forth in his garden. His roots are wrapped about the heap, and it seeth the place of stones. If he destroy him from his place, then it shall deny him, saying, I have not seen thee. Behold, this is the joy of his way, and out of the earth shall others grow. Behold, God will not cast away a perfect man, neither will he help the evildoers, till he fill thy mouth with laughing and thy lips with rejoicing. They that hate thee shall be clothed with shame, and the dwelling place of the wicked shall not come to naught. This here is Job chapter number 8. Any thoughts or comments or feedback if you've read in advance, had a chance to look at this, or a verse that stood out to you, or a question or an observation? It doesn't have to be long observation. Had a good observation last week, just about Job not coming back from the grave. Any thoughts out of tonight? Job's a tricky one, isn't it? Yeah. His friends are judgmental. If he was a friend, you wouldn't want him. Yeah? Fair call? Yeah. Cole.
Verse 20, Behold, God will not cast away a perfect man, neither will he help the evildoers. There is times that God does help the evildoers. And I was just thinking of King Nebuchadnezzar, and how God, he was an evildoer, like he was a wicked, like they were a wicked nation, but God actually helped them, come and grow into a bigger nation, more powerful nation, to inflict judgment upon Israel. And so even in that, like God did actually help, and does at times help people who are doing evil.
Yeah.
In the beginning you might go, well, why is God allowing this to happen? But then in the latter end you can see, oh well, he was actually had a great purpose.
Yeah. Job will make that case, not about Nebuchadnezzar, but he will say that there are times where the wicked does flourish, and the wicked do prosper. And he'll make that very point because he was counteracting what they're saying. So that's coming up. Any observations? That verse is key. Josh, go ahead.
Last week I sort of noticed this in chapter 7, where he talks about that is there not an appointed time upon earth for man? And then later on he continues to talk about how that he has sinned. And I think going through the book of Job, I've realised that as much as he is a perfect and unrighteous man, at the end of the day he's still a sinner, just like us. And I think somewhere along the line it seems, for me reading through, I tend to forget that. And then you look at his friends talking to him all the time, well maybe your kids have sinned, or think, to be honest, just looking through it, I think there's a little bit of pride that comes out in his life there, where he's sort of saying, like, you know what? No, I haven't done this, or I haven't done that. But I think he gets to a point where he understands that because of sin, there's an appointed time that we must die. And I think in chapter 7, he's very close to telling God, you know what, I desire this day to come. Like, you know.
Oh, he's absolutely asking God to die.
Yeah.
He's been begging for that day, and that's what chapter 4 is really all about, is him saying, why am I alive? I don't want to be alive.
Yeah.
And it's not that he's suicidal. He's just saying, man, the grave is a place that I absolutely desire. There, he talks about that in, I think it's chapter 4, he says, there they are at rest, there the wicked cease no more, there, like, he's talking about that he wants to be at the grave. He doesn't want to live in this kind of misery that he has right now.
It just seems that, like, he defends himself a lot. And it's like, does he forget that he is a sinner? Or
Yeah.
he does, but just the way that the story is presented, it's...
Yeah, and again, you'll come to that very famous verse in the book of Job where he says that, yes, when I'm tried, I'll come forth as gold, which, you know, it's sung like, you know, God will put us through the refiner's fires and we'll come out as gold. Job is saying, no, I'm going to go into the fire, and the fire will prove that on the other side that I'm gold because I've gone into it gold. So there is absolutely him declaring his righteousness, but there's a fine line, and this is it him just being prideful about his righteousness? I think it's actually him counteracting his friends who are trying their absolute best to pin on Job fault, some kind of fault. Eliphaz is saying, right, whoever perished being innocent. So Job, you must have done something wrong because God is judging you because of obvious sin. And he's saying, well, of course I'm a sinner, but there's no obvious, like you said, his hands are clean before God. He's innocent before God in the sense, and God even says that he's righteous before me. So he's a man who walks with God, but is he a sinner? He says, absolutely. Like, if you want to find fault with me, who's going to stand before the Almighty? Of course he's going to find fault in me. But he is saying, like, am I in known rebellion against God that he would bring such a judgment against me? He's always trying to defend his cause against the guys who are trying to say there must be some secret, hidden, massive sin that you are a hypocrite and God is bringing judgment for this. And he's saying, no, I'm a man that's trying to live righteously who is a sinner. And that's that back and forth where he's pleading with them. And it does get a little bit more heated along the way where he starts to talk more about himself. So absolutely that's in there. In fact, again, you find here in chapter 8, Bildad takes over because Eliphaz's opening point, if you may remember, Eliphaz's opening point is in chapter 4, verse 7, where Eliphaz, it was chapter 3 actually, where Job is wishing for the grave, but chapter 4, verse 7, Eliphaz says, remember, I pray thee, whoever perished being innocent. So Job, you're perishing now, and whoever perished being innocent, surely, so you must be, exactly, Jesus perished being innocent. But what Eliphaz is trying to say, which is where this sequential conversation goes, is saying, right, no one ever had these terrible things happen to them unless they were wicked, and God judges the wicked. So no one ever perished being innocent. Job then counteracts that in chapter 6 and 7 by saying, no, I'm innocent. Teach me, it says, teach me, and I will hold my tongue, he says in chapter 6 and verse 24, teach me, and I will hold my tongue, and cause me to understand where I have erred. So if you're saying that I'm guilty before God, well then teach me and show me. Show me these things. And Eliphaz then picks up the case here in, Bildad takes it up in chapter 8. And over these weeks, I'm trying not to necessarily make a point every single week, but rather to let the natural narrative of the story build the case as we go to get to the point where God answers, so that the weight of it is at the end, which is the natural flow of the book. But Bildad says here, he says, how long wilt thou speak these things? You're justifying yourself. How long will you speak these things in verse 2? And how long shall the words of thy mouth be like strong words? Does God pervert judgment? Doth the Almighty pervert justice? This is a very key verse to the whole flow of Job. This is the question, this is the big question that Bildad is asking, that Eliphaz is asking, that Job is wrestling with, and that we wrestle with this exact same question. Is God just?
What's their reference point? That's most people don't think about. Their reference point was the flood. They weren't that far away from it.
Look at verse number 8, and that he'll tell you what his reference point is. He says, "For inquire, I pray thee, of the former age, and prepare thyself to search of their fathers." And verse 10 says, "Shall not they teach thee?" So this is his reference point. Well, go back to the generations previous. Job, does God pervert justice? Does he act unjust? Is he an unjust God in how he acts? And so therefore, what he is bringing upon you must be just. And justice is defined as this: the virtue which consists in giving to everyone what is his due. That's what it means to be just. So a just judge, when a criminal comes before him, a just judge will mete to him what is due, what he requires and what he has earned. So Bildad is making that same case, which is a strong case to say that God is just, so therefore what he is bringing upon you is his justice. It's what you obviously deserve. But here's where the complication of the book of Job really is all about, is wrestling with this argument. Is God just? Is he just? And we all go, yeah, until you lose your kids in a car accident for seemingly no reason whatsoever, and then you have to ask this question: God, why? That is not fair. What did I ever do? I'm trying to serve you to the best of my ability. I'm trying to live my life to the best of my ability. And again, we've been praying for Kerry Williamson for 8 weeks, and she is a fresh, real example of this. She's sitting in a hospital for 8 weeks now. 8 weeks because of double mastectomy and complications because of COVID situations. She can't even see her kids. Some of those are adopted kids she is their only parent. Her kids lost their father in a bike accident, and their father died, and now their mother is 8 weeks in a hospital, and they're asking, is she going to die as well? Are you ever going to come out of here? And she's wondering herself, am I ever going to come out of here? She's got financial issues as a single mother. She has health issues. She's lost her husband. And for what sin? What if we sat around Kerry Williamson's bed and said, well, there must be some kind of sin in your life. Because surely God wouldn't bring such horrendous things upon your life unless there was some secret hidden sin in your life. And that's what Bildad and Eliphaz are saying. Now, if we sat around Kerry Williamson's bed, to the best of my ability, Kerry Williamson is a woman who walks with God. She's a humble lady. She's just trying to do her best in life, and she's had the most horrendous circumstances thrust upon her that none of us in this room would ever wish upon our enemies. And if we were to gather around her bed and be the Bildad and the Eliphaz and say to you, well, does whoever perished being innocent, Kerry? Obviously, bad things are happening to you because you've obviously been bad, and God is just. And Bildad comes in and builds up the point, and Kerry says, no, show me where my sin is. Show me what I've done. And Bildad says, I don't need to show what you've done, because clearly God knows what you've done. Does he pervert justice? Are you saying that he's not a just God? Obviously, you deserve this, which is what Bildad is saying, which is why I agree with my own mother. What terrible friends. Which is what Job agrees with. Shouldn't pity be given to a friend that's in sorrow, not just having the finger wagged at them and say, well, clearly you're a sinner. And Kerry Williamson, again, let's put that case there before us. Kerry Williamson is pleading her case saying, as Josh is saying, I'm not a sinner. Well, and I am a sinner, but I'm not a sinner. I am a sinner, and God could find sin in my life, but I'm not in that sense. And that's what Job is saying, and that's what Job is trying to plead this case as he's scratching the boils, and all his friends around him are saying, well, God is just. And if we said that to Kerry Williamson, do you believe God is just? By intellectual knowledge, we'd say, yeah. But isn't there something that cries out in you and says, how is God just to a single mother who's adopted kids, who has children, who's lost a husband and financially unset and now is in a hospital? Is God just? Is that not the question that would be raised out of such a circumstance? Is that not what Kerry is maybe wrestling with at this very moment on a hospital bed? So again, it's about and this intellectual argument has to be put down into everyday situations and realize sometimes life is just not fair. And it's not that you can put life into a transactional arrangement and say, and look through it through a transactional lens and say, right, good things only happen to good people and bad things only happen to bad people. Because Job testifies that a bad thing has happened to a good person. And his friends are trying to say, no, Job, that's not how life works. Bad things only happen to bad people. And so therefore you must be a hypocrite. Because look at this argument. Look at verse number 4. This is what Bildad says. If thy children have sinned against him, and he have cast them away for their transgressions, what a horrendous, though intellectually maybe, what a horrendous thing to actually say. Completely lacks compassion to say, Job, your kids probably died because, who knows, some transgression before God, and God's wiped them out. And if you come home and you've had a car accident, and your children have had a car accident, and you've lost all your children in one car accident, or you've lost multiple children in a car accident, which has happened, and to turn around to say to them, well, what if they were just sinners and God wiped them out? How do you take that? Which is what Bildad is saying to Job. If thy children have sinned against him and he have cast them away for their transgressions, they were obviously sinners, or if thou shouldest seek unto God betimes and make the supplication to the Almighty, or if thou wert pure and upright, if, surely, he says, surely now he would awake for thee and make the habitation of thy righteousness prosper. It's that transactional view that he's looking through life. Well, if this is true, and if this is true, and if this is true, then surely God would step in on your behalf if all these things are as you said they are. And he goes on to say, then thy beginning was small, yet thy latter end shall be greatly increased. And where does he appeal to this kind of rationale? Well, he appeals to the generations that have gone before. And there seems to be a pattern that bad things have happened to bad people and the judgment of God have come across bad people, and good people and righteous people have prospered. And he can look at that. And we can make that same claim today, and we can look around the world and say, you know what, the wicked don't prosper. And God does ultimately cut down the wicked, and those who are righteous do prosper. But that is not always the case, which is really what the book of Job is about. That is not always the case. And sometimes these things aren't fair and they don't seem just. And so what they are really arguing about is the very character and nature of God. Is God just for allowing these things? Is it God, which is what they're wrestling about here? Bildad is saying, no, God is judging you because he is a just God. And Job is saying, I believe he is a just God, but there's something else going on at play here because I'm not a sinner in that sense. I don't have gross sin before God. And that's what they're trying to wrestle with, which is probably the exact same thing that Kerry Williamson is trying to wrestle with right now, laying in a hospital bed. God, are you just for allowing these things to happen upon me for no apparent reason? And that's the book of Job, and this case gets stronger as they argue this out as we get through it. And we're going to come to the answer where God answers Job, and he's answering about his justice. Is God just? Is he fair in allowing bad things to happen to good people? And if he's not just, then that makes him unjust. And can you come to a concept where your God is unjust? Do you want to serve a God who is unjust? So therefore you have to weigh up some very weighty matters when bad things happen to good people. And your good God has allowed these bad things to happen to you. There's some weighty things to weigh up, and that's what they are weighing up as well. And there are people, like I said, in our world today, if not in our church right now, people that we know are weighing up these very same issues. And it comes back to, can I trust my God? Is this God? Should I trust God? And it's a faith, man, it attacks the very core of your faith. And Job's very faith is being challenged here. And it's why this book is important to us. And we'll build on it as we go through this. And Job will answer. Job says like this. Look at this. I'll give you a quick cheek into next week. Chapter 9, Job answered and said, I know it is of a truth. I believe what you are saying. But he says, but there seems to be a glitch in the matrix. Or, sorry, he doesn't put it like that. He says, but how should man be just with God? He answers back to that very justice question. Is God just? Yeah, he is just, but how can man be just with God? So anyway, we'll look at that next week, at the glitch in the matrix of this good to good and bad to bad, and not always. Find a prayer partner tonight. Find a prayer partner. And remember to pray for our missionaries. Remember, I didn't add on our newest missionary that we added to our family last week, the Harrington family, off to Mauritius. And so remember to pray for the Harrington family. Hold the rope. Hold the rope, as he put it. That's how he preached. Hold the rope, either financially or in prayer of those that are being let down. So hold the rope. In prayer.